Have you ever been completely surrounded by people? You're hearing the conversations, seeing the smiles, watching everyone around you enjoy themselves, and yet somehow you felt totally invisible? It's literally one of the most confusing emotions a person can experience. We usually picture loneliness as just sitting in an empty room all by ourselves, but the reality, it's far more complex than that.
Psychology tells us that true loneliness actually comes from the absence of meaningful emotional connection, not just the absence of people. And this right here is the core of what we're looking at today. It explains exactly why someone can have this massive network of friends, a super active family life, coworkers all around them, or even thousands of followers online and still feel like absolutely nobody truly gets them.
So to understand how this happens, we need to look at how we hide. Let's move to section 1, the mask of loneliness, hiding in plain sight. The absolute hardest part about this type of isolation is that it usually hides right in front of us, tucked away behind a very convincing smile. People who feel deeply alone often become absolute experts at pretending they're okay. They laugh at the jokes, they show up to work, they go to school, and when you ask them how they are, they just deliver that classic simple two-word response. I'm fine. They just keep living their daily lives while carrying this heavy emotional pain that literally nobody notices. So what's the logic here? Why don't they just speak up and say they're hurting? Well, over time, a lonely person starts to just expect to be misunderstood, or ignored, or judged. So instead of reaching out for help, they quietly convince themselves of a really tragic, flawed premise. They start believing that staying silent is actually safer than risking the pain of disappointment all over again. But here's the thing, that silence doesn't just stay quiet. It gets really loud inside our heads. Let's look at section 2, the cycle of overthinking, the isolation spiral.
This silent struggle slowly warps the way a person thinks, creating this dangerous downward spiral. Let's walk through it. First, they start questioning their own worth, just wondering if they're even important to anyone. Second, they begin overanalyzing even the tiniest interactions. By step 3, a totally innocent delayed reply to a text message suddenly feels like outright rejection, or a canceled plan feels like absolute undeniable proof that they don't matter. And finally, their mind just starts creating these stories that simply aren't true. But when you sit in loneliness for long enough, those false stories really start to feel like reality.
And it is not just in our heads either. It's heavily tied to our biology. Throughout human history, belonging to a group meant you survived. We are quite literally wired to connect. So when we experience modern disconnection for long periods of time, the brain basically hits the panic button. It reacts as though something is seriously threatening your survival. Stress hormones spike, motivation drops, and even just doing simple, everyday tasks feels emotionally exhausting. Loneliness isn't just a sad feeling. It physically impacts your health, your sleep quality, and your overall confidence.
Now, if connection is a strict biological need, why do we actively push it away? That brings us to section 3, the fear of vulnerability, building walls.
There's this huge misconception out there that lonely people just don't enjoy being around others. In reality, it's the exact opposite. They desperately want meaningful relationships, but they are terrified of getting hurt again. After going through rejection or emotional neglect, the brain starts flagging vulnerability as a serious danger. They become super guarded, maybe hesitating before sending a message, or choosing to isolate themselves before someone else gets the chance to leave them. It's a heartbreaking irony, really. The walls they build to protect themselves end up becoming the exact reason they stay lonely.
And this guarded behavior actually manifests in ways you might never expect. Let's uncover section 4, the helper's hidden pain, giving what they need.
This is a super common yet surprising psychological pattern. The loneliest people are often the ones spending the absolute most time helping everyone else. They are the ones who listen so carefully, always comforting their friends. Yet, internally, they almost never ask for help themselves because they're so worried about becoming a burden. Or they firmly believe nobody actually wants to hear about their problems. They are constantly out there giving others the exact kindness and attention they secretly wish someone would give them. Add to this internal struggle the digital environment we're all living in today. Loneliness absolutely wrecks your confidence, especially when you're constantly comparing your life to social media feeds. We see all these public highlights, right? Everyone else looks flawlessly connected, posting smiling photos and showing off perfect friendships. But what we don't realize is the private reality behind the screen. A lot of those people posting big smiles are fighting battles nobody else can see. Ultimately, feeling lonely often just means you're unfairly comparing your messy, private reality to everybody else's filtered public highlights. Over time, this heavy burden changes a person's behavior in really subtle ways. A person might just stop trying to make plans because they assume nobody wants to hang out with them anyway. They might stop sharing their opinions, thinking, well, nobody cares what I think regardless. You might notice them avoiding eye contact or slowly backing away from any opportunities to connect. Unfortunately, this just feeds the monster. The more isolated they make themselves, the more the loneliness grows, which makes it feel virtually impossible to reach back out.
But here's the good news. Psychology also offers us a clear way out of this painful cycle. Let's focus on Section 5, the path to healing, rebuilding connection.
When it comes down to it, healing often starts with just one number: 1. Look, human connection does not require you to have dozens of close friends or be the most popular, outgoing person in the room. Sometimes it literally just takes one single genuine relationship to completely change the way a person feels about their life. Just one sincere conversation where someone truly listens to you without any judgment can be enough to remind a lonely person that they are seen, that they are valued, and that they make sense.
And the beautiful thing is, we can all be that one person for somebody else. Healing doesn't happen overnight, obviously, but small moments rebuild that broken trust. Step 1, start noticing those quiet people in your life. The ones who smile but don't say much, or those helpers who never talk about themselves. Step 2, just offer a sincere conversation. Ask how they really are. Step 3, let them know they aren't alone. Seriously, a kind word or just checking in can have a far bigger impact than you could ever imagine. It can be the spark that makes someone believe in connection again.
Now, if you are listening to this and you've been feeling alone lately, I really want you to take a breath and take this in. Loneliness is absolutely not a reflection of your worth. It doesn't mean you're broken, it doesn't mean you're unlovable, and it definitely doesn't mean you are destined to feel this way forever. Millions of people are silently carrying these exact same emotions every single day. Understanding the psychology behind it is your very first step toward healing. There are people out there who will deeply appreciate your presence and value you for exactly who you are.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Feeling lonely doesn't mean you have no value. All it really means is that your heart is actively searching for a genuine connection, the exact kind of deep, meaningful connection that every single human being needs and deserves. So, what small step are you going to take today? Will you seek out that connection for yourself, or maybe offer it to someone who's hiding silently behind a smile? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deeper look empowers you moving forward. Take care of yourselves and each other.